The top stories we are following. The number of Americans applying for unemployment last week fell to a new pandemic low. The Labor Department reporting 576,000 unemployment applications, down by nearly 200,000 from last week. A sign that a sustained recovery is taking hold as vaccinations accelerate and pandemic business restrictions are lifted. Plus, new numbers show Americans took their stimulus checks straight to the mall. The Commerce Department says retail sales soared 9.8% in March. Democrats are introducing a bill in Congress to add 4 justices to the Supreme Court, bringing the total to 13. Lawmakers and progressive activists just wrapping up a press conference saying it will, quote, restore the court's balance after a conservative judge was appointed last year. Last week, President Biden ordered a commission to study the possibility. Critics say court packing will politicize an independent judiciary. Biden administration announcing sweeping new sanctions targeting Russia in retaliation for its SolarWinds cyber attacks on U.S. government agencies, interference in the 2020 election, and support of the Taliban in Afghanistan. The move targets 30-plus individuals and entities and expels 10 Russian diplomats and intelligence officials stationed in the U.S.